authentic. You being unique. You're not following someone else's path. The moment you start to compare with someone and contrast with someone, you say, oh, this person's running ads, and this person's doing YouTube, therefore I should do it, therefore I should do that. No. What's your own unique path? Can you reason via first principles why one method would work and why one wouldn't? When was the last time you just took some time to sit down and think about why things are the way they are? You haven't, right? So a lot of people don't do that. They don't sit down and really think about why things are the way they are. The key thing is, you have to understand this first law. You have to understand what the real causes are. What are the hidden causes that are causing all the effects that we're seeing? Everything that you see manifested in physical reality is but an effect. This leads very, very well into the second law, the law of spirit. And I'm going to explain to you exactly what that means. The second law that is absolutely crucial to understand if you want to be a creator of your reality is the law of spirit that he talks about in the book. And the quote goes like this. This is in chapter 12, Pythagorean Mathematics, and this is what he says. The universe is made up of successive gradations of good. These gradations ascend from matter, which is the least degree of good, to spirit, which is the greatest degree of good. In man, the three spheres of his threefold nature merge into a single unit, making him a single living soul. The importance of this quote is as follows. I believe this comes from Hermetic teachings, where Hermes Trismegistus, known as the greatest god of all time, who existed 5,000 years before the Common Era, I believe, in the Emerald Tablet, talks about the three different planes of existence. He talks about how the least and most gross form of existence is the physical dimension. A level above that is the mental dimension. And the third level above that is the spiritual dimension. Hermes was known as Hermes Trismegistus, and Trismegistus translates to thrice greatest, meaning he's mastered all these three planes of existence. Manly Hall says how the least degree of good is matter, and the greatest degree of good is spirit. So I want you to take a moment to think about why he would say something like that. This is why the ancient yogis believe something like this too. They believe that the most gross form, which is matter, is influenced by the most subtle form, which is nothingness, and everything evolved out of nothingness. They believed that the universe, this world as we perceive it right now, evolved from nothingness. This nothingness became energy. This energy evolved into awareness. Awareness then evolved into consciousness. It started to become aware of itself. Consciousness. It became conscious of itself. This consciousness, there started to be movements within consciousness. And this movement within consciousness is called the mind. It's called thought. And this mind then created the body. If you look at placebo effects right now, your body literally has the ability to cure cancer, right? It has the ability to cure all sorts of ailments that you would have never imagined without any outside intervention. This is the technology. There are quantum computers that can't replicate the functions of human bodies yet. That's how sophisticated this system is. The mind is the doing of all of this. So in order to influence the body, we have to tap into the subtler dimensions of life. And this is exactly what he means by this quote. And this, again, interestingly goes back to this law of cause and effect, right? There is a subtle cause that is leading to all of these gross effects. If you want to create anything in your life, stop focusing on the gross matter, on the thing, on trying to manipulate and change something. Focus on the subtle source that's actually causing this effect that you're seeing. What is causing the effect that you're seeing right now? The subtle inevitably leads to the gross. So in order to make any physical change happen in your life, you have to look at the subtle source from which it originates. And this is where it all originates, in the mind. This actually leads very interestingly to the third law, the law of imagination. It's very interesting to see that Manly Hall goes really deep into it and describes it beautifully. He says, imagination is the star in man, the celestial or supercelestial body. This is the great secret of the mysteries. Imagination is the divine body in every man, the divine principle or idea by which each creature is begotten. And this is in chapter 25, the Pythagorean theory of music and color. Now, I want you to take a moment to reflect on this. Why does he call this the star in man? Why does he call this the celestial or supercelestial body? I believe this is the subtlest as the most subtle will get. And imagination is the power that runs everything. Einstein prized imagination. He said, imagination is the only thing that truly governs this world. And I believe that's why Hall describes this as the celestial or super-celestial body, the highest of them all, the greatest star that could ever exist. Another man who always talks about imagination is a person by the name of Neville Goddard. He was a 19th century philosopher, and Neville Goddard mentions imagination and awareness to be the most powerful of them all. And remember, in principle number 2, I talked about the concept of awareness and how the yogis believed that that's how it evolved. From nothingness to energy, to awareness, to consciousness, mind, and body. Awareness in conjunction with imagination has the power to completely rule your life. The only form of visualization, though, that becomes very, very powerful is creative visualization. Now, there's a reason why they talk about imagination, because imagination has connotations of creativity. Creativity connotes the heart. If you simply picture something in your mind's eye, it has no effect. You're simply picturing. There's a difference between imagining and picturing. Neville Goddard always talks about visualizing, thinking feelingly. So when you visualize creatively anything that you want in your life, and you project it in your mind's eye, then you're automatically invoking two of the most necessary components of manifestation and reality creation. This involves the heart and the mind. In everything that you do, both your heart and mind, if they're in a single congruent line. For example, let's say you want a job, and you really feel good about getting that job, and it makes you feel great. Then the probability that you will get that job is a lot higher.
Hey there, you won't believe what we've got in store for you today.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, and welcome to Dreamy Dreamland with Sensei Al Bob. So what are those three things? Imagination, consciousness, and truth. And what is truth? It is that thing when you strip away all the other things around it, that's the only thing that's left. So, what have you learned as a truth this day? The thing I learned today as truth is that I am not going to allow the illusion of my physicality to motivate me to do anything. I am going to follow the path of my imagination, see component parts of everything around me. What do you think? What are the three components of your consciousness, your creative ability to assemble a truth that, in essence, protects you, manifests the life you want. How do you feel right now in your body? What is your body doing? You feel your body at all? Does your body feel good? Or does your body feel kind of sluggish? You feel like, eh. You feel like your colon is full of crap. And that crap is a metaphor for your life. Your life is your colon full of crap. Or is it not? It's your life that really open expression of creativity of your consciousness through singular truth of the artist in the first person. Can you see that clearly?
Biden, I wish him well, gave his farewell address to America. He said a number of things, but one in particular got my attention. He warned America about, quote, his words, not mine, quote, a dangerous concentration of power in the hands of very few ultra-wealthy people. President Biden went on to say, and I quote again, today, an oligarchy is taking shape in America of extreme wealth, power, and influence that literally threatens our entire democracy. Our basic rights and freedoms and a fair shot.
John Kennedy, Republican from Louisiana. County Board.
Now, I don't know who President Biden.
John Kennedy, go check him out. Go see where he is, what he is, what's he doing, how long's he been in Washington. He sounds like a cracker to me, right? But he went to school at Oxford. Here, let us go to American John Kennedy. American Congressman John Kennedy. Don't want to tell me anything. John Kennedy, American politician. John Kennedy, American politician. I don't want to respond to that. John Kennedy, American politician. John Kennedy, American politician. Who is John Kennedy in America? John Kennedy, Louisiana politician. Yeah, you didn't want to go there. What are the three laws? I don't want to hear from me.
By becoming more controlling, they often accelerate their own decline. Their harsh policy worth acknowledging. This is exactly when they look strongest on the surface. Regimes enter what we could call a degeneration phase. Think about what happens when any group or individual becomes too comfortable in a position of power. At first, they try to justify their privileges. They're job creators. They do it for the people. They are saving the economy. Think of the children, and so on. But gradually, something shifts. The justifications become thinner, more perfunctory. Eventually, they stop bothering to justify at all. Public resources become their personal piggy bank, public institutions their private toolset, and public concerns are barely worth acknowledging. This is exactly when they look strongest on the surface. They've got everything under their control. The money, the power, the institutions. Look at how the 30 tyrants controlled Athens. They had all the weapons, all the wealth, total formal authority. They thought they were showing strength by ruthlessly eliminating critics, hoarding wealth, and crushing dissent. Yet they were creating the perfect conditions for their own overthrow. What makes this pattern so important is how it reveals the paradox of power, strength becoming weakness, control breeding its own instability. When those in charge respond to challenges by becoming more controlling, they often accelerate their own decline. Their harsh policies alienate potential allies. Their visible excesses create silent resentment. Their internal rivalries fracture their unity. Think of it like holding sand. The tighter you squeeze, the more it slips through your fingers.
Sounds like where we are on this planet Earth, right? And the powers that shouldn't be, that you never see, the hidden hand, they control everything. And so they manifest economic collapse, wars, famine, disease on a planet that is the Garden of Eden. I mean, we have enough for everybody. But at this present time, this entity that is concerned with its survival, even though nobody knows who it is, it's not Klaus Schwab, it's not the billionaire tech bros, it's not Donnie, it's not the woke liberal party, it's none of the above. These are just character actors that are put out on the stage, as Shakespeare says. We're all actors performing on a stage. The real deal is when you go inside yourself and look for the truth inside yourself. What truth is there? Tell me, Jane, what truth do you see inside yourself? Let's see if you can get rid of your truth within. Yes. Go within, look for the truth, and when you see that, you will see why you have malware pop-up ads, right? And you will just be able to get rid of them with the thought of that truth. Give that a try. Let's see how well you work at that. Come on. Most people don't realize you have to get in a position like myself as a moron, So what is a moron? Someone who has more on the ball, more on the understanding, more on letting go, more on thinking of others rather than himself or herself. That's a moron. That's why people, oh, look at that moron, you know? I would never do that. Look how he's giving that money away. Look what he's doing. Blah, 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 blah. Come on, Jane, I believe in you. You can get rid of your pop-up ads through your self-awareness of your truth, right? Which will give you a very interesting doorway into your self-awareness of your consciousness. What is consciousness? But action. And in the beginning, everything was dark, meaning nothing was moving around. And then the Big Bang, boom, right? Then a lot of action, a lot of moving around. And that's, like me. I have to get up and move around every 10, 15, 20 minutes. Otherwise, I rust, Emotionally intelligence. Yep. So you look at why you did this or did that or what you were feeling about this or that. And when you can come to the understanding of what this or that was, that's emotional intelligence. When you can see the motivation of your own actions and other people's actions within the construct of responding to your actions, right? That's conscious awareness. And when you go to, instead of acting out, you act within love's co-creation. That's when you don't really have to worry. That's when agape love takes over. That's when you are the Greek word for slave. Let's see if Google is. The Greek word for slave. It says it's listening. Come on, listen. The Greek word for slave. Okay, which are the other one? What does doula mean in Greek? Okay. It's not wanting to do zip line.
Consciousness comes about what they call a whole problem. That's because they're looking in the wrong place. They're trying to establish consciousness as something that emanates from matter, from the brain. But the sages of ancient India in the Upanishadic texts stated that it's the other way around. The consciousness produces matter. In other words, the metaphysical brings about the physical. And therefore, consciousness can never be understood by the human mind. Scientists following the materialist paradigm will never come to understand how consciousness comes about, what they call the whole problem. That's because they're looking in the wrong place. They're trying to establish consciousness as something that emanates from matter, from the brain. But the sages of ancient India in the Upanishadic texts stated that it's the other way around. The consciousness produces matter.
And that's what we have to be. We have to be conscious as a doula, right? To love's co-creation. Right? And that's what consciousness is. It's not the material. It's not, It's not the cottage cheese between your ears, you know. Your brain is just a RAM, random access memory. That's all it is, right? And your heart is the hard drive, right? And the colon is your deep memory. Right? So those three things come together and make consciousness, right? Individually, they are or spiritual consciousness, right? Everything is brought to us in threes, right? And the thing is, then we just focus on the material. Oh, I want that car. I want that house. I want to be warm. I want to go traveling. I want to go to Disneyland. I want to take a good, you know, as our good friend, uh, martyred artist, he always talks about taking a good shit. You know, I'm just, you know, that's everything is like, you know, he's, I think Freud called that anal retentive. So why are people anal retentive? I mean, right now, why do I want to take a good shit? You know, because it's a metaphor of evacuating all the crap that's inside me. Right? Come on, Jane, you can do it. Visualize that stopping, right? And see what you can do with that. And you may, I mean, when I have a problem that I don't have any idea about, I say, God, help me out here. I don't have a clue. Here's the steering wheel. And then the answer to whatever that thing I need to do pops right in my head. Right? God kind of, and then we do it together. You know, we have love's co-creation. So this is given to you as a experiment, Jane. Right? At the very worst, you know, you can. I mean, that's why I have. Back in the day, when I worked as a consultant for desperate lawyers, they used to give me a laptop or a tablet or a phone or whatever that had all the information I needed to work on their project for them, right? So I wouldn't have to jump into their system or anything, right? And then I would work on it, and I'd have an assistant, and I could email that whatever I was doing to them, and then they could play with the system and keep it, safe and sound, right? And so I have a lot of laptops and tablets and things of that nature. So I just kind of, keep them in a box, and every now and then I will, plug them in, charge up the battery. The battery works. I try and turn it on, right? And I would say more than 80% of the time those things work, right? So if I ever have a real problem, I just kind of go over and try something else. Factory reset. Yes, there you go. I will degauss. Yes, just Jane, don't you degauss? You can degauss your flip flops, but not you. Don't degauss yourself. Factory reset. Yep, I would say that. And what's the worst? The thing comes back, clean as a whistle, right? Now, also, I have a number of my battery's not working. Yeah, that's a problem right there. That's usually the first problem, right? Keeping your instrument well charged, right? So, before I do anything, I make sure my instrument is well, because a number of times I get talking and I forget to charge the instrument to its thing, or have the ability to plug it in to keep it going. So I've gotten to a point where I don't really do a show unless I'm kind of plugged in for power. So because my little device here really gets upset when I've just done a 3-hour show, and then it's been telling me, hey, battery's low, but I'm looking at what you're saying, or distracted something else, and it goes away. But it'll put itself up on my channel. It might take it a day or two, but it'll do it. And I'll plug in my thing. I'll go to bed or go do something else, and then when it's all charged up, I have to like basically not do a factory reset, but turn everything off. Well, it's turned itself off. Anyway, you know what I'm saying. I have could be a solar ions causing battery depletion. Could be that. I mean, a lot of weird crap is going on up above us. That's for sure. You know, our solar system is lining up in a way that it hasn't done it for over 60,000 years. Right. So whenever shit like that happens, you know, something weird is definitely probably going to happen. Chinese sun simulator. I mean, you know, why guess on anything? I don't care. You know, see, that's the other thing, Jane. I have no real. The only thing I care about. Oh boy, good to see you. How you doing? Are you there, Sean? Oh, Sean. Yoo-hoo. Homeboy. Maybe he, you know, butt called me. Who knows? Let's see. Do. Try and call him. It's ringing. There you are. Was that? Did you just try and call me?
Can you hear me at all?
Oh, I can hear you great.
Oh, I can barely hear you.
Okay.
Turn it up.
Okay. How about now? Can you hear me better?
You know, not very much, but I just wanted to tell you, I listened to you for a little while yesterday, and you know the capital of Spain, right?
Yeah.
You were talking about the new Madrid fault line.
Oh yeah. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's Madrid. And you got me scared, man.
Well, it's happened. It's happened before. You know, if you go Google the mud flood, that was it, and that was in the 1870s. The interesting thing is how it's not in our history.
Well, I have heard it mentioned. What is it, like 1840s or something?
Yeah, somewhere in there, somewhere between 1840 and 1870, somewhere in there. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it raised the church bells in Boston.
Yep. And the other interesting thing, it killed mostly grown-ups, and so there are hundreds of thousands, not of millions, of children, and they rounded them up and basically gave them to churches, and the churches sold them to families, you know, like who had no kids.
I've heard of this. That is absolutely crazy.
Yep, sounds very American, though, you know.
Well, to play devil's advocate, what the hell were they supposed to do?
Well, that's true. What the hell are they supposed to do? They could have, I have no idea what they could have done, but maybe been a little more empathetic to the individual child's needs.
You know, kind of if I were to write like a big chapter of my life, it would be called, what the hell was I supposed to do?
Yeah.
You know?
Yep. See, I never really thought about that. I just let God put me in a direction, you know?
Oh, yeah. But, you know, they say, well, you always have a choice.
Well, a lot of people, no, a lot of people don't.
You have a good choice.
Right. Exactly. You don't have a good choice. A lot of people don't have a choice, you know? I hear people saying, "You made your choice. You made your decision." Blah. No, if like those kids, what choice did they have? None.
Yeah. Wow.
So
wow. So you doing all right?
yeah, you know me. I'm always fine.
Oh, good.
Yep. So I'm just doing a live show here, and
We are.
Yep.
Again.
Yep, you are our number one guest.
Oh, hello, planet Earth.
Yes, this is our higher dimensional character, Mr. Green Jeans.
Oh, yes. The moon is just one giant booger.
Are you out and about? Can you see the moon?
No, but I saw it like about a week ago. It was full moon. I'm pretty proud of it. Full moon.
Well, all the plants are in alignment in a way that they haven't for a long time. So
I guess the planets are having some kind of a convention.
yeah, they're having a convention, a party. So it's that's why things are really interesting. So someone gave me a list of all of Donnie's presidential orders, right? And he picked out a few for me to go study. And the one that was most interesting and hilarious, I don't know if you picked up on this, but Donnie.
Hey, I think I talk about a side note.
What?
Are you about to talk about a side note?
Yes, exactly. Well, that he's defining what's a man and what's a woman. And yes, and basically the way he wrote the presidential order made everyone women.
Well, isn't that, I took biology class in high school and first couple of years of college.
Yep.
Yep. And I've always been instructed that the sex of the child is it happens when conception happens.
But no, it doesn't. It doesn't. It happens 6 weeks later when the hormones get blasted down, and you either stay a girl, because once you're a little pollywog, before you're a fetus, you basically are a female. Everyone starts out as a female. 6 weeks later, the hormones come blasting down, and you're either a guy or a girl.
You're really trying to piss off Henry VIII,
Yeah, I know. Yeah. So it's.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that's what I love about Donnie. He's the gift that just keeps on giving.
Well, yeah, I wonder how things are going to play out.
Oh, they won't be any worse than they were his first time out.
Yeah.
Except what's going to happen that will be a really great thing, or not, depending on you, is that everything is going to become extremely clear. Who killed JFK? Who are the ETs? I mean, every kind of secret that the power structure has been trying to keep under wraps is all going to come out.
Well, I think we're in a different time zone now, or a different
dimension. Different
I don't
dimension.
want to say a new age, but we're in a different era now. I think.
Yep.
Kind of.
Yep. Exactly. So what's going to happen is either something positive or negative. Bottom line, whatever comes out will be positive, right? But like you always have a choice. One of the things that may come out is that by this time next year, about 5 billion people won't be alive on Earth.
Well, I hope you're wrong about that.
Right.
Does it have anything to do with the Eagle report?
It has to do with everything, right? Everything is synchronistic. There is no singular bad or good thing. It all kind of fits together like a jigsaw.
What would you say would be the main method of departure?
I would say basically there'll be another pandemic, and this one a little bit not so. Did you ever watch Chris Carter? He had the X Files, and then he had like the Space Warriors, and then he had the thing where the Ouroboros was eating its tail, right? And it was called Millennium, I think. It was like leading up to the year 2000. And they put out some really interesting things in that show. It's like almost as good as The Simpsons telling the future. And they basically said the bird flu is going to whack the human race in the big way. And that was 20 something 25 years ago, 26 years ago.
Yeah.
I wonder where Chris Carter is now. I mean, he made all his money. I wonder if he's bought himself an island or something.
I bet we're almost like at and they all live happily ever after part.
Well, that never seems to work out. You have to be consciously aware, and in all the movies where everyone's happily ever after, people really are more like blissed out rather than consciously aware.
Yeah.
The only movie that I ever saw that came close to the consciously aware was It's a Wonderful Life. When George, tried to kill himself by jumping off the bridge, right? And then
Right.
a good half of the movie, he sees what would have happened if he did, right?
Yeah. Hang on. Wait. Hello. There?
I'm still here, honey bun.
Clarence, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, I have to buy a heat lamp for my goats. It broke. Speaking of electronics and high tech kind of stuff, the thing finally gave out, and I have to buy a brand new thing that you plug in the heat lamp. Kind of a little dome.
Yeah.
Assembly thing.
Yeah. So go to Lowe's and buy yourself a clamp light.
No, I got it right here.
Oh, okay. You got it right there.
I got it, and I'm taking off the stuff, and I'm going to put it together, and we're all going to live happily ever after, damn it.
Yeah, well, those goats will be happy. Have you guys had the ridiculous cold that we had?
Well, it got down, this is like the Florida of Colorado.
Right.
So it only got down to about 0.
Okay.
Yeah.
We had a couple of nights where it was minus double digits.
Are you still there, mister?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me now?
Mr. Clarence?
Can you hear me now?
Okay, yes. Yes, I do.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Groovy and stuff.
We might get a few days of 40-degree weather coming this week, which would be nice.
Wow. You are spoiled. Spoiled rotten, I say.
No, it's been, like today it was 8 degrees.
Yeah, 40 degrees.
Yep.
Nice.
For about 3 days.
Well, hey, whoop-de-doo, whoop-de-die. Stick a needle in your eye. Hold on.
Yep.
I'm going to plug it in. Mm-hmm. Everything's going to work. Everything is going to be just fantastic.
There you go.
Wait a minute. Somewhere, oh, for Christ's sakes, that's so weird. Somewhere they're burning coal so that we can, and it's spinning a dynamo, and so that we can have electricity here.
Yeah, isn't that nice of them?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I guess it's about as crazy as anything else.
The thing about all of this.
Oh, there he is.
Did it light up?
Yeah, but no, my roommate just came home and I need to talk to him.
Well, go jump
Yeah.
in. Go jump into it.
Okay. Thank you very much. I'll see you later.
Later, alligator.
Okay. See ya. Bye-bye.
Ah. So that guy is a really amazing scholar. He's got all kinds of degrees. He's taught languages. Oh, we can listen to him. No, he hung up. So anyway, and he's a really great musician, and he was torn between those two things. And so what did he do? He got a girl pregnant, and he ended up being a truck driver. And, he's really smart. He's really well educated. The kid has grown up to be a teenager who's just like your average teenager, doesn't do shit, like kids. It's really, they're not that hard to deal with, Like the other night, when these kids were here, they have a basketball league, and their coach was late by about an hour. Right there, kids know that the coach doesn't give a fuck about them, right? So they were just running around with basketballs, bouncing them off each other's heads, and really not doing anything to make themselves better basketball stars, right? So I went in there, and they kept throwing the ball around, and I was trying to sleep, and they kept hitting against the door and waking me up. So I got up, and I gave them the hey kind of my outside voice, and they all like this. I said, "Listen, everyone line up on this line," and they did. There were about 6 of them, all lined up. And I said, "See, on the other end of the court, there's another line just like this line. Run to that line, stop, turn around, and run back. Do that 10 times." And they did. It's called a suicide. And by the time they were, I said, "You do that every day, and you will be a basketball star, because 80% of basketball is being able to run without losing your breath." They were like, So I said, "Okay, next thing we're going to do line drills." And they go, "What's that?" I said, "Well, half you guys are going to get at that end, and the other half are at this end. And this end is going to bounce the basketball, running as fast as they can, and then they're going to pass it to the next guy, and he's going to run this way, and there'll be somebody at that. Those guys there will run around, and so they did that for another 10 minutes, right? Then I put them up on the foul line and had them shoot fouls, and showed them how to visualize. And when I said, "Okay, go ahead," and they were doing it, and not a single one got in, right? So I said, "Okay, stand at the line, bounce the ball. When you feel, close your eyes, visualize the ball going into the basket. Take a big breath in, hold it, bring the basketball up, and you have to line this hand. The ball is being held by this, and this one's going to propel it. Use it like a gun. See it as a sight. You're seeing it." And the first kid did it, who was the worst at doing it, and whoosh, not even off the backboard, whoosh, right? And they had him on the other side. So one kid ran and got it and went around. I said, "Okay, do the same thing, basket, get loose, hold it, see it in your mind's eye." And so they all did it, right? And so they were doing it, and they were losing their mind, because they got to the point where they all got 10, swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. And then the coach came up, "What are you guys doing?" And I said, "Well, we were just doing some drills." "This is my team. Don't tell them what to do." And they just kind of looked at him, and then they started running around, throwing the ball at each other, and and I just walked away and went into the hallway where all these old ladies were, who were the grandmas of these kids, meaning these kids' parents weren't there. Grandma was, right? These women look next to death. I mean, I'm pushing 80, right? And I am dead. I am like the Walking Dead. I got, and yet I look pretty good, and I can get, they want to cut my legs, and I can walk, Anyway, so, they wanted to cut 20 feet out of my colon, but it still kind of works, right? And I have no money to do the things I would normally do. Like when, what saved my life was that two of my lawyers who used me for a good 6 months paid for all the kind of things I needed. Colonic therapist, this, there, all that kind of stuff. And that's what got me to my homeostasis. And then I really got down. I sold everything, gave all my stuff away to the poor, and started living this life. So anyway, so there's your grandmas, and I sit down and I say, oh, let me read your palm, let me read your, and right? And they're like, oh my God, you know me so well. I mean, it's not hard. You just look at them. These people have had the wrong end of the stick whacking them their whole friggin' life. And here they are. Their kids aren't taking care of their children, and they have to. And the state isn't helping them out to do it. I mean, it's like really, that's, when you live in a state that it's all has no taxes, the rich don't get taxed at all. And so that's why a lot of rich people are moving here. Tennessee, Florida, Tennessee, Texas, a couple other states like that. All the real free ones, right? That believe in liberty, like letting women choose. I mean, half those states want to, basically get women as slaves, take every right away from everybody except white males, right? White males are the only guys who can vote. White males are the only guys who can say what's going on, right? So, and yet, you look at who's mostly in jail, white males, right? A number of those chuckleheads that got let off by Donnie, I mean, a lot of people, they let all these violent guys out. Well, about half the really violent ones have already gotten arrested for shit they did in less than 3 days, right? So they're back in jail. That's what I'm saying. Don't worry about any of this stuff. This is like comic relief, right? And shit's going to happen. Half of all the Mexican people around here have gone underground, right? The last 4 weeks or so, the majority of the people who have come to get stuff have been Hispanic, and they've got a lot of stuff. And me just watching what they're getting, I've realized that they're going to hide. They get a lot of Pampers, a lot of they got babies, so they're getting a lot of stuff for the babies, and they're getting clothes because they're going to be out in the woods, so it's going to be right. And we have tarps. They all nobody wanted the tarps. They took all the tarps. They took tools, So they're heading out, to lay low. Right? It's very obvious that's what it's going to do, and it's already affecting because all the business around here, like the contracting guys, I know a bunch of them, and all their employees who are, undocumented immigrants, but but these guys were paying taxes. They were, paying rent. A lot of people have, I know guys who are landlords, and people walked away. They're not here, right? And in North Carolina, just, I don't know, 30, 40 miles from here, there are a bunch of Tyson chicken factories, right? Well, they're all closed because half the people who worked there were Hispanic and split, right? And so they're not going back home. They are just going, hiding to see what's going to happen, right? Because half of them, when I talk to them, half of the people were undocumented. The other half had been here for, a number of generations, but they're still their family. So they're going to go. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. So people send me a lot of, I have all in my internet. And you too can get a hold of me at the dudewake42 at Gmail, right? And if you do, and you are on Gmail, I will zip you a number of my novels and stories and essays. And so if you want to read what I write, get a hold of me at thedudewake42 at Gmail, right? And so No one's going to have a roof put on their house. No one's going to have sheetrock hung. And we're going to start not having chicken in the supermarket and or vegetables, right? I know people out in California who are in Florida who are kind of freaking out, A, because of the weather and the fires and a bunch of other stuff. But the other side of the coin is in California right now is one of the, especially the citrus, crop. This is their major harvest time. Nobody there to pick it. Right? Now they can leave that stuff on the bush for, a month or so. But anything longer than that, that stuff's going to start to rot. And that whole year's worth of crop is going to go. And if they don't have people there to clean up the mess, then all those trees are going to get infected with things. And then all those, thousands of acres of citrus that have been, pruned and taken care of for generations will go away in less than a year. So everything, and if we start to terrace Mexico and Canada, both those places basically make all the parts that go into things that we don't really manufacture anything. What we do, like cars, we don't manufacture cars. We assemble them, right? So chunks of the car and parts of the car show up on the assembly line and they just kind of get stuck together, and that's the car made in America. But 80% of the parts are made in either Mexico or China or Canada. And if we start going after that, those guys, close to 3 million people will be out of a job. And we won't have cars, right? And we won't have spare parts. And unless you can go to a junkyard and your car is made, before 2010, it's not going to be running. And there are a whole bunch of other things. It's called a knock-on, right? So if Donnie actually does that, and then you look at, now Donnie says that he's going to go to the Gaza Strip and talk to the Palestinians. That would be great, If Kamala had done that, she would have won. But anyway, but she was put there to lose because the only people that Donnie could win are really unpopular women. Right? That's how we won in 2016. If Bernie had gone up against Donnie in 2016, that would have been the end of Donnie. But they had to cheat. They had to lie. Bernie had basically won all the primary votes, and then it comes to California. Sorry, Bernie. We got all these special electorates and blah, 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 and you lose, and Hillary's going to be going up against Donnie. And that was like, it was manifest destiny, right? And the same thing with Biden winning, It was like, really. I mean, after the total chaos of 4 years of Donnie and the pandemic and, 1 million people dying in America and about 7 million, not really recovering. They spent all that time in the ICU on machines. Anyway, good luck with that, and that's where we're heading. So it's not going to be any worse than that. It's going to be a lot more hysterical. Like I said, Donnie puts out a executive order basically stating that everyone in America is a female, right? Because he says gender is assigned, executive order says your gender is assigned at insemination. Well, whoever wrote that thing didn't, go through high school biology. You find out that when the little, swimmer gets inside that egg and fertilizes it, it's a zygote. The zygote has no gender. I mean, it kind of does, in that it's a female. All of it is female, right? Because the egg is female. 6 weeks later is when the hormones come splashing down, and that's when the gender is assigned. Right? And I learned that in 6th grade and then reaffirmed it in 7th grade. So it's like whoever wrote that thing for Donnie didn't even know that. Or he did, and he did it on purpose because it's hilarious, because now by executive order, everyone in America is a female. Doesn't matter whether you got a hoo-hoo or a woo-woo, you are a female. Now, I've understood that about myself. I'm one of the best lesbians there are. You know, that's why girls like me. You know, I am a professional. Right? I listen. Right? I don't tell them what to think. I support whatever they want to do. I give them good advice if they ask for it. That's why I've had, over 50 amazing relationships with women. And the endings are the best part of it. We go, good friends. And a lot of those women were, basically what I call affairs to remember, meaning they can come back. We stumble into each other again, and they're not with anybody, and I'm not with anybody. We can pick it up where we left off. And that's a very nice benefit in relationship dynamics. And humans are actually designed to do that. But because of the power structure, not going to happen, because there has to be chaos and disagreement and emotional distress for a small group of people to rule over a large group of people. And right now, we are at this very interesting crossroads where we're either going to figure this out or we're going to have a mini end of times, the four horsemen apocalypse. They come every now and then. It's not only once and then that's the end of time. So, it's what it is. Go listen to Dark Journalist. He always, every Friday, he has a really great show. He has great guests, and he's got a great, his sidekick, the Unseen. She's always running the board and everything. And so, I got nobody to do this. So that's why it is what it is. But that's okay. It is what it is. That's okay. So let's see what else we got here.
In other words, the metaphysical brings about the physical. And therefore, consciousness can never be understood by the human mind. Scientists following the materialist paradigm will never come to understand how
the side effects of using OxyFit every day. We have the hand grenade. Yes, of course. The holy hand grenade of Antioch. It is one of the sacred relics.
and Biden, I wish him well, gave his farewell address to America.
Johnny Kennedy from
He said a number of things, but one
By becoming more controlling, they often accelerate their own decline. Their harsh policy worth acknowledging. This is exactly when they look strongest on the surface. Regimes enter what we could call a degeneration phase. Think about what happens when any group or individual becomes too comfortable in a position of power. At first, they try to justify their privileges, their job creators. They do it for the people. They are saving the economy. Think of the children, and so on. But gradually, something shifts. The justifications become thinner, more perfunctory. Eventually, they stop bothering to justify at all. Public resources become their personal piggy bank, public institutions their private toolset, and public concerns are barely worth acknowledging. This is exactly when they look strongest on the surface. They've got everything under their control. The money, the power, the institutions. Look at how the 30 tyrants controlled Athens. They had all the weapons, all the wealth, total formal authority. They thought they were showing strength by ruthlessly eliminating critics, hoarding wealth, and crushing dissent. Yet they were creating the perfect conditions for their own overthrow. What makes this pattern so important is how it reveals the paradox of power, strength becoming weakness, control breeding its own instability. When those those in charge respond to challenges by becoming more controlling, they often accelerate their own decline. Their harsh policies alienate potential allies. Their visible excesses create silent resentment. Their internal rivalries fracture their unity. Think of it like holding sand.
And H.G. Wells wrote, all the, like Frankenstein. No, Mary Shelley wrote Frankenstein, but The Invisible Man, Time Machine, Island, Dr. Moreau, and a whole bunch of others that made him really, really famous, right? And he wrote, and he was a professor at Oxford or Cambridge, one or the other, I'm not quite sure. And he came from a very, 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 his mother was a scullery maid, and they had no daycare, so she brought him to work and was in the big house with rich, rich people who were never really there. And they had this gigantic library, and she just stuck him in there in the library, and he started reading all the books. And then one day, the really, really rich guy who owned all that said, "Who are you?" And he said, "Oh, and my mom is," and he goes, "Oh, and you're reading this? That's a book in Greek. I don't even know how to read Greek." He said, "Well, I just kind of figured it out." Anyway, this guy sent him like to Eton, the most highest, richest people, secondary school in England, where only dukes and duchesses and this guy went. Then he got, at the age of 18, he got a professorship at one of those colleges, and he, they didn't pay him much, and then he was a horny dude, so he was having loads of fun, and then he basically had a few bills he had to pay, so he wrote a story one weekend, took it down to the Strand, that part of England where all the publishers were. He found this one guy, said, "Yeah, I'll buy this from you for £100." And £100 is like today $10,000. And he said, "Sure, man. Yeah, here." So he does, and that guy, publishes it, puts it out, and it's wildly popular, right? And so he goes back to him and said, "Hey, you got any more of these?" And his name wasn't H.G. That was his writing name. Basically said, "Yeah, I got a ton of these, but no longer £100. A, I want 1,000 pounds, and B, I want cut of every sale. Like what you do for a popular author. I am it." And so he did, and he became very popular, very popular, very popular. On and around after World War One, he wrote that 20 years between 1918 and 1939. He wrote a number of books, and they were more he was writing scholarly books too, not just sci-fi. But the sci-fi was making him a lot of money and giving him a lot of notoriety too. So he liked both of those. And so he wrote a book called The Small Book of World History, right? And it was an amazing book. And it wasn't small, it was like that big. And that book, I think he published it in 1925 or 26. From 26 until 1960, that book sold more than any other book on the planet Earth. More people read it, digested it, right? And do you even hear about it today? Nah. And most people don't even talk about H.G. Wells, right? Or Mary Shelley, or any of the great minds of the 19th century. I mean, it's like the 19th century didn't exist. So after that, he wrote a book that was then immediately made into a movie called Things to Come. And he laid it out just like it is, And so it's on, Things to Come is on YouTube. You can go for free, go look at it. And it really, 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 and that's where, what's his name? The guy who did Star Trek, he got that idea from that book. But he got that idea from his boss in Naval Intelligence to slip it into the zeitgeist of the world. Gene Roddenberry. Gene Roddenberry also had another interesting TV show called Earth, Final Conflict, which is all about right about now, times right about now, and the aliens show up, right? Just like the TV show that was about 10 years before that called V. So anyway, just go take a look at those things. And another interesting thing to go look on YouTube is J.J. Abrams' TV show called Fringe, and that's probably about 25, 30 years old by now. And Chris Carter's, X-Files, and then he had, Space Troopers, and then he had this thing called Millennia, right? And they were really touchstones of what's going on. So, I experienced it. I mean, not only did I see it on TV, I was out there in the field working for people who were doing that crazy shit, right? And so I was watching it, being part of it, documenting it, writing it, researching it, all the above. And I never got stuck, meaning I would get involved through an entity who would hire me to look at, and one of my skill sets was looking at protocols, right? And looking at demographics and looking at, my real best skill set was to identify unexpected consequences. I got to see a lot of stuff looking for those kind of touchstones. And I would do it, and I would do it, I was usually involved in a project for 6 months to 18 months, and then I would go on to the next. And I did that, between 1978 until 1999, 78 to 99. So that's 20 years, give or take. 78 to 88, 88 to 98. Yeah, about 20 years, give or take. And I did, electric work. I did a lot of other things, a lot of art, a lot of stuff. Right? And because all the other things I did were great covers for me, people would look at me and say, "Oh, what's that guy doing? He's not working for these entities," because I never spoke about it, And I really still don't speak about it because, I had to sign quite stringent non-disclosure forms, right? So I can tell story, and in those, I said, guys, I'm a storyteller, and they said, fine, yes, and we actually kind of like the fact that you're going to tell stories about this stuff. You just got to make it really hazy and wait at least 20 years from the time that you did that to the time you start telling stories. And don't really plug it into. But if it's 30 years or 40 years later, yeah, you can start to, because no one's even going to remember what that was. So they're not, think it's part of the story. So it's, what it is. It'd be nice if they paid me for this. Yes, I did make a spiritual understanding that I was going to give up my material hedonistic life. And it's probably, if they did give me a lot of money and I kind of started easing back into that, I'd probably be dead within a year or two. It's just this having to be inconvenient and move that's keeping me alive. That's what it is. What can I say? Oh, there's Swami. Jane, baby. Can you say something you so cute? Cute? Is that it? Cute? So cute? You're so fine. You blow my mind. Hey, Swami. Swami, you're so fine. Anyway, and Swami is fine. So, what else? Yeah, let's see, how long have I been doing this now? An hour and 14 minutes. Let's see what else is on the magic box so I can play for you.
And missions indicate the flyby, the capture, and the landing being scheduled during 1970. The manned Mars capture mission is compatible with RMMS mission and objective selected for this study. A representative mission description. The concept presented, reference 3, involves the use of orbital launch operations for interplanetary vehicles constructed from several individually launched LTV modules. So interplanetary craft, this is what they're working on, and they said.
And they were doing this at the same time of Apollo. Saturn V was designed to put that kind of stuff into high Earth orbit in an L7 place where it would stay there, and they could, build whatever they wanted to build, and then send it someplace else. And that's, there was a thing called solar water. Now I think they call it Space Force, but they were out there. You remember back in the 50s when people saw flying saucers and they saw these things that looked like cigars? Well, what they were the mass-produced submarines that were mass-produced in the United States. War ends, we've got 3,000 submarines that we don't need because we're now going to build nuclear-powered submarines. And so they stick, anti-grav units onto the submarine. And what better thing to put out into space than a metal tube that can seal itself off and hold an atmosphere. And they, that thing was so overbuilt to do that because it was designed to go down 200-300 feet where the crushing thing of the ocean. Whereas in space, when they were in the LEM's wall was like you could put your fist through. They had to be real careful because they could easily, puncture it, right? So they had these submarines and they put the units on there and they zing, right? And so that's why people said, it looked like a cigar because it's 10,000 feet up in the air flying across the sky. It looks like a cigar, Anyway. And that's the kind of stuff that's going to, Donnie is, signed, everyone's going to, see who killed JFK. And this is what this show's about. Dark Journalist, he was talking about this last night. This is it.
EV modules. So interplanetary craft, this is what they're working on, and they say you're going to have it ready by 1970, okay? The determination of a specific role for a remote control system necessitates the choice of a mission. The choice for this study is the Mars exploration mission. LTV is involved in the Mars mission that we hear about through Gordon Cooper, who tells us Wernher von Braun comes over to him, pats him on the shoulder and says, get yourself in shape. You're going to lead the mission to Mars. What happened to this Mars mission? 1970. We got to the moon there, as we know, in 1969, under highly unusual circumstances. Selection resulted from the consideration of several factors. Future space missions are considered for this study to take place in the 1970 to 1980 period. The Mars mission is sufficiently advanced in time that specific concepts are not yet fixed. The Mars mission will probably precede the Venus missions. We never even hear about Venus missions. Now, I want to point out something about Ling Temco-Vought LTV, which is the owner of the Texas School Book Depository owns it.
LTV.
So when Lee Harvey Oswald is checking,
LTV is an extremely large military-industrial contractor that specializes in space, right? And building rockets and building very advanced technology, computers, et cetera, at LTV. And the guy who was running Bell at the time was Wernher von Braun's boss on the V1, General, what's his name, who was a nasty guy, They had slaves, constructing the V1s and the V2s, and they went through a good few, 100,000 workers in that last 2 or 3 years, just they were expensive, right? And but he's, he was brought over by Paperclip and put in charge of Bell Aerospace, not Bell, that built aircraft and built the helicopters, but aerospace. Like all the X-planes were built by Bell, by the Nazis. Right? So when he said that we had gone to the moon in the 50s, right, by extraordinary means, meaning the Nazis were already there. They, via the Operation Paperclip, brought us into their technological base, right? And so, the moon is an artificial thing, right? It's 1,000,000 years old. It is the Death Star. That's where George Lucas got the idea. Our moon is the Death Star. And you're hearing things that, that it seems to be hollow. Like when they put they had geologic sensors, and then they, the second or third time that they went to the moon, they put that big Saturn V booster in a big orbit. So, after the guys had left the moon, it would finally come around and hit the moon, doing, 16, 17, 20,000 miles an hour, smashing straight into the moon. And they have these guys have been leaving these geologic things that have an antenna that send it back to Houston. And so when they did that for the first time, the freaking moon rang like a bell and just went, like for about a year. So, these are all things you can go scratch around the internet and you can find these things. And so this year, a lot of this stuff is going to come out. You're going to find out why they killed Kennedy. You're going to find out who did it, and most of those guys are dead. And the CIA is already, they're going to get blamed, but the CIA is already, we have 60 different intelligence entities just in the United States. The CIA has lost its viability. So they're going to be allowed to take the hit on this one. Oh, we're going to smash it into 1,000 pieces, and we're going to have, everyone's going to be happy and wear white hats, and it'll be fine, and blah, blah, blah. So, but don't believe a word I say. I'm just a storyteller. I don't know anything. I think Swami, I don't know how he did it, but he miniaturized Frowig, yes. So my first wife had a good buddy named Hilton Braithwaite, and we were all kind of members of this thing called, it was a photo collective. I forget, but anyway, Hilton was a chef, and he met Andrea Davis, and they got married, and I went to their wedding, right? And it was very bizarre because I took a flight there. I was tired. I took a thing. The key was under the mat. They had a really, really nice house. Very, very nice house with a pool in the back and everything, but still in the hood. It's like the rich black people hood, right? So anyway, I fall asleep. Then all in the house, I wake up. The whole house is like shaking, and bright light is coming through the windows. I have no idea. My whole thing was earthquake, and I'm wearing my underpants, and I run outside, and the helicopter, and what's shaking the house is the helicopter is like 10 feet from the roof of the house. So it's the wash of the helicopter blades that are like shaking the house in a really bright light. And I walk out, and all right, you get on your knees, So, and that was fun. Angela, they actually, I got arrested, and they came and got me, and she went and sued the shit out of them. So, and all the cops were like semi-apologetic, right? Because because I had, when they ran me, they said, "Oh wow, this guy's, we're not supposed to bother this guy," and they already had. I was in my underpants in jail, and that's when they figured out that they shouldn't have been screwing with me. I mean, their computers weren't that good. So, she showed up. She's a lawyer, beyond lawyer, and she's got all these other lawyer buddies, and so. But yes, that was interesting. So, I could be traumatized by that, go on and on about the police. But no, I have a lot of friends I was a policeman. I worked for New York City Housing Authority as a conflict resolution officer, right? Yeah, I didn't wear a uniform. I could, they gave me a uniform. I didn't wear it. Hawaiian shirt, flip-flops, shorts, baseball hat, here at some. I did have my little amulet. I had my picture and my little badge on it so I wouldn't get shot by a cop. But my whole job was to cool things down. My partner was the angel of death. We were the epitome of good cop, bad cop. She would kill. She was the first woman to pass, not just pass, she was the number one candidate in her class for the U.S. Army Rangers, not the Green Beret, they're pussies. These guys are really badass. And she was number one, right? And then, she came out and they made her a master sergeant and she became a trainer. And she was like, did you ever see, Full Metal Jacket? And that sergeant, that was her, but a good looking woman with a good set, right? And just screaming at these guys. So she and I were buds, tighter than tight. And so that is what life's about, experiencing it, right? Not running away from it. And that's what most people do. They're scared of life, right? Me, I just kind of, keep a good eye at what's going on, stay out of harm's way, study the situation, and then interact when my 3 rules. Don't get involved unless you're going to go help people, the innocent people, get out of harm's way, and you have a good exit strategy, right? There's no reason to go get involved in something if you can't fix it, right? Not fix it, but get them out of harm's way. 2, don't get involved unless you can do some good, right? And 3, don't get involved unless you can learn about something that will enable everyone to do better. That's about it. So, I think at this moment, I'm going to say, I'll see you guys later. Unless you guys want to start a conversation, but nobody's there, 2 likes up, thank you. Remember, make some comments. Swami, you got a lot of time on your hand. Make some comments of the show. Go to the comment thing and write nice, long dissertations on however you feel. Right? Let's see what this is. Ooh, that's a spaceship there. Light speed engines capable of interstellar travel. I don't know if I would want to do interstellar travel in a thing like that. It looks pretty small. Wouldn't want to get like 10,000 light years from home and not get home, and I have to stay in that thing for the rest of eternity. But that's nothing. I mean, they've got a lot of stuff. Oh. Okay, guys, unless you got something to say, I'm out of here.